So first thing we're going to go through is just some of the states of values and states of different functions on the console. We've talked about this a little bit. If we're looking in our fixture sheet, we will look for what values are in there and how they are displayed to know what state they're in. There's three different states of values in the programmer, okay? The first one is off, and that is going to display in the fixture sheet as the blue background with the gray text. So that is just, the value is not in the programmer, it's just sitting in its default state. So it's an off value. And you can see that up here in your fixture sheet. If you want to, you can go ahead and select the none mask just to bring back everyone. And we look through here and we see a bunch of values that are in the off state or the default state. They have the blue background with the gray text. Okay, second state of a value in the programmer is going to be active values. And that is going to be displayed with red text and red background. Then the third state is inactive values, and that is just red font with a blue background, okay? So active and inactive means that the values, you have placed them in the programmer. The difference is if it's an active value, it is allowed to be stored. If it is an inactive value, it will not be stored, okay? It's being held in the programmer, but it's not eligible to be stored anywhere if it's inactive. So red text, blue background would not be stored anywhere, okay? So we're just gonna go through here and we're gonna look at some of that. So we wanna change to a fresh executor fader page. So to do that on the software, we're just gonna hit the page button. We'll go to page 3, which is our next page because we're on 2 right now. And please, to give us a fresh set of faders over here on page 3. All right, we're gonna select our quantum profile group from the groups pool down here. And I'm gonna go ahead and mask those to the quantum profiles up here, just so I can see those. Then we'll see we have yellow, bold text for the numbers and the name. That means we've selected them, which we did. Now we're gonna bring the dimmer to full, and we can use the shortcut. Again, at is a shortcut for full, or 100% on dimmer. Okay, we're gonna position these in our downstage center position preset. So the presets that we made in the last lab, select downstage center. And we're going to use our color wheel this time to put a color in. Instead of mixing a color, we're going to use the color wheel, which is the stationary dichroic wheel in the fixture. Well, not stationary, it's the wheel in the fixture that has the dichroics in it, and those are replaceable. Just depends on what fixture you have. So we'll go to the color tab, and if you're in mixed color here, that would be our color mixing. Click it again to get to color 1, and we see C1, which is our color wheel for those quantum profiles. And we're gonna click on the C1 box here to get a display of all the colors that are in here. Again, these are dichroics on a wheel inside of here. We're gonna select the 69.3 red 310 with the 2 parentheses by it. So red 310, where are you? With the 2 right here, okay. So select this red 310 with the 2 in parentheses. And that ends up being value of 69.3. And we'll see that they have changed to red in the visualizer. All right. And then if you haven't already, mask your pool, your fixture sheet to your quantum profiles. So if we look in the fixture sheet now, with all of that, we have now placed all of those values into the programmer. We see for dimmer, position of pan and tilt, and also the C1 of color, we have active values there now. So we've told them to be in the programmer, and these values, we have red text with the red background and the red rectangle in the top left corner. That means that they are active values. And if we were to store these, all of these values would be stored, okay? Now say we wanna store this cube, but we decided not to store the color information. We don't want that in there anymore. We could hit clear twice, but that's gonna clear all of our active values out. And we'd have to redo dimmer and position. So if I just wanna get rid of one attribute, If we go into the attribute tab that we want to turn off, which is going to be in this case the C1 box, we click on it, and at the top we see these red boxes here. So these are different ways that we can manipulate the state of the value. So if I want to get rid of this, I could just say deactivate. Click on that. And now in the fixture sheet for C1, I see red text with a blue background and a white rectangle. That means it's now an inactive value. It's still being held there. I still see the red in the visualizer. But if I'm to store this now, it will only take the dimmer and pan tilt information. It would ignore C1 and not store that, even though I'm still holding it in the programmer. So that's kind of the difference between the active and inactive value, okay? Make sure I'm on the right track here. Okay, so now we're gonna say that we wanna turn off the position tab as well. We'll go back to our position tab. We can click on either pan or tilt. So click in the box, and we also see the off. The difference between deactivate and off is that if I click off, which we're going to do right now, it actually releases the value back to its off state. So it's completely out of the program right now. It's like we cleared it out. Same thing with tilt. If we do that, select off. Now those values are to their off state. So if I use deactivate, they stay in the programmer but won't be stored. If I use off, they're completely cleared out. And if we can see here, it's been all those pan and tilt values were actually released from the programmer. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and store this. So we should be storing just dimmer information now. Even though we still see the color in here, if we store this, dimmer is the only one that's active, so that should be the only thing that stores. So we'll hit store, select fader number 1. I'll just click anywhere on fader number 1, and then clear it out 3 times to clear out the programmer completely. Now, if we turn on executor number 1 with the on button, we do indeed see that we stored it. Even though the color was being held there, it was inactive, and we turned off the pan and tilt values, so dimmer is the only thing that was stored here. Okay, so that's the different states of values and how they're going to interact with both the programmer and storing onto an executor sequence. Okay, so just want to pay really close attention to your program or your fixture sheet. That's why it's one of the most important windows. You need to pay really close attention to make sure your values are in the state you want them to be. So turn off executor 1. And again, I wanted to just show you this again. The reason why you have to be so careful. So say, oh crap, I made a mistake and I hit clear to release a selection, but accidentally hit it again. In my fixture sheet, you'll see that the second clear, which we're going to talk about in just a second, is actually releasing active values. So I'm still holding them at full, and if I store this, I'm actually going to be storing a blank queue. So that's a common mistake people make. They're like, well, it didn't store what I told it to store. Well, make sure that the states of values are correct, because even though you see it in the visualizer does not mean it's going to store. So you make sure you have them in the right state, okay?